here's my quick overview of the war in Eastern Europe as it impacts the economy. The GDP of Russia is $1.5 trillion, thereabouts. I mean, it's declined a lot over the last 2 months since their invasion. But to contextualize how big Russia is in the global economy, it would be like the third or fourth biggest state by GDP, between New York and Florida. But that even itself, that overstates the impact of Russia's impact on the global economy. So the U.S. is actually relatively less exposed compared to Europe in terms of the commodity and energy exports from Russia. Only about 2% of our crude oil imports come from Russia. And so all the sanctions you may have read about in the news over the last month and a half, 2 months, whether it was seizing or freezing rather the assets of the Russian central bank, it seems that those have made a big impact on the Russian economy. You see the stock market, the currency has all taken a huge hit. But in terms of those sanctions and their impact on the U.S. economy, it seems like there's very little financial exposure by U.S. institutions. So I think bottom line, though, is that this is really uncharted territory, right? This is a grave human moral catastrophe that we're watching in horror. And I just want to acknowledge that truth of war. But when it comes to the future, no one can predict what's going to happen with this war. I just want to contextualize the macro impact. Now, the main way we're going to feel in terms of U.S. recruiters, in terms of U.S. economists, the main way we're going to feel this war in the U.S. is through higher inflation. And inflation, unfortunately, was already high. Inflation year over year was nearly 8% for consumers in February. We're going to get new numbers next week. It's probably going to be even higher. Now, conflict historically tends to drive inflation higher. There are shortages, right, in terms of machinery, and shortages in terms of workers, right? There's dislocation, there's refugee issues. And there's also, in this case in particular, there's huge energy and commodity price shocks. So yes, the petroleum price went above $100 a barrel. Yes, you may have seen liquefied natural gas prices in Europe spike. Russia makes up more than 10% of global exports in a number of commodities: wheat, platinum, palladium. So that's an input to catalytic converters in cars. So those commodities that Russia was exporting to some degree are going to get more expensive. So inflation already high, it's an even bigger problem because of this war in Eastern Europe.